So far we've covered three important lessons, and if you've been following me and practicing, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, today's lesson is very important, and we're going to connect the dots on what we started so far. But first, a quick recap. First, we started with the basics of the heavy versus light letters, and that was the first pair of characteristics of the Arabic letters. Then I talked to this guy, and we learned about the three special letters that sometimes can be heavy or light depending on some cases. Then I talked to him again, and this time we talked about the whisper versus clear letters, and how understanding this pair of characteristics can save you from making a major mistake in Surah Al-Fatiha and invalidate your prayers. Okay, so afterwards, and due to many questions and comments I received, I had to share with you from my perspective, the correct method and process of how to learn the Quran. Okay, how to approach it with the right mindset and long term. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, they just skip over this important step. But make no mistake, this journey requires a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice. You know, the ongoing and end result is absolutely worth it. That's the beauty of it. But you also have to be ready and prepared for the challenges that it comes with. Okay, need some water here. Bismillah. Then I had to take a break. Well, it wasn't really a break. Yeah, we're back at it now, inshallah. Are we actually? Oh, there you are. Still practicing. I really like that, man. It's good. That's good. Now, in today's lesson, I'm going to cover the last pair of characteristics, which will complete the most important trio of all characteristics. That's what I like to call them. So I'll start with an example here. If you still remember from the whisper versus clear letters, in the first ayah of Surah Al-Sharh, أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ, I mentioned that there is airflow here on the sheen and the ha, and then in the end on the kaf, especially when these letters come in the state of the sukoon, right? Here in the end there is a sukoon, even though it's not written, just because we pause in the end, we put a sukoon. But there's more to the story here. If you pay more attention here, you'll notice that there is a slight difference in the way we pronounce these three letters. Nash, rah, laka sadarak. So there is definitely more airflow on the sheen, nash, and the ha, nash, rah, versus the kaf in the end, sadarak. And then we cut, sadarak. And we don't say sadarak, sadarak. And the reason for this is what we're studying here today in terms of the strong versus the weak letters, but there are some special letters in the middle, or what we call the middle part of this characteristic, okay? So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the extension in the sound of the letter itself. The extension in the sound of the letter and not just the production of the air with it. Okay, so now what are the strong letters? Well, we have 8 letters that are always strong. And what I mean by strong, again, is you need to cut the sound for them immediately after you pronounce them. Okay? And they are ajidu, qatin, bakat. So a, jim, dal, qa, ta, ba, ka, ta. So every time you pronounce these letters, you need to cut the sound immediately for them, and you don't extend. You can't extend the sound for all of these. So you say like that, d, d. So you can't just say j, otherwise it will sound like a sha. Okay, and we'll talk about all of this in detail in a bit. Now we also need to understand there are 5 letters that are in the middle. Okay, so you don't cut the sound for them immediately, and you don't extend them as much as in the weak case. Okay, and they are Lin, Umar. So you have the La, the Noon, the Mim, the Ain, the Ra. And then all the remaining letters will always be weak, so you can extend the sound for them, or you have to extend the sound for them. For example, you have the Tha, you say Ath, Ath, okay, or the Ha, or the fa, right? Or the ra, l, right? And so on and so forth. So all the remaining letters will be always weak, so you extend the sound for them. Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting. So now let's forget about this pair of characteristics here because it doesn't affect our subject matter. However, we're going to focus on the whisper versus clear and the strong versus the weak and then the middle part for a bit. Okay, so now some letters can come as whisper sound, whisper letters, and weak letters at the same time. Okay, and so this is like in the case of the sheen, right, or the ha in the ayah alam nashrah laka sadrak. So now there are two elements here, the airflow and the extension of the sound. That's why it's more emphasized, especially when you stop on it with a sukoon, for example, right? So you say alam nashrah like that, okay? Versus some letters, there are only two letters actually that come as a whisper letters, but strong. Can you guess them? I mean, yeah, the kaf and the ta right here. Just like in the case of sadarak. So in this case, I want you to understand that we need to cut the sound immediately for the kaf, but allow the airflow, or the ta, allow the airflow to be produced after. So you say sadarak, sadarak, like that, sadarak. Okay, I'm pausing here slightly in the middle just so I can exaggerate the sound for you and you can hear it. Sadarak, okay, or وَمَن يَقْنُتْ يَقْنُتْ مِنكُنَّ, right, like that. So you cut the sound but then produce the air on it. So now these are very subtle differences between all of these characteristics, but that's what gives each of these letters its individual unique sound, okay? And by understanding these three pairs that you'll have a good understanding of how you pronounce and differentiate between all of these letters properly, okay? And so what I want you to understand from all of this now is that we have built the foundation of pronouncing the letters properly. So when it comes to connecting them, we know how to do that. And so please go back and review them, understand all of these individual characteristics and as pairs, right? And also memorize the letters too. Okay, so now when you come across each of them in a split of a second when you're reading the Quran, you don't have to think about them anymore. Okay, it will take some time in the beginning and it will be difficult in the beginning to adapt and familiarize yourself with the movement that it requires. But trust me, and I've seen it from my experience and from other people's experiences, from my students that I taught. It is difficult for them when they start. But then after a while, 3 months down the road, after we finished all of them, they are shocked by the results that they have accomplished. Okay? So please trust the process and just go back and study all of them. I'm talking too much here, but this is very important. And also allow yourself to become fluent in recalling the letters for them. Okay, so for example, when I talk about heavy versus light letters, I already know that right? This is heavy letters, like that. Special letters, 3 letters, blah blah blah, like that. So whisper versus clear letters, I know that فحثه شخص سكت, right? فحثه شخص سكت, right? I don't have to have too much of a time to recall them. Okay, and this is years of studying, years of practice, learning Quran, reading and looking at them, and so I am absolutely excited for this and we'll keep building bi'idhnillah. Okay, so if you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments or send me a message on Instagram. I try to answer as many people as possible, and in the end, don't forget to like and share so we can spread this knowledge of the Quran. And I cannot wait to see you in the next video. بإذن Take care, you all. As-salam. Yes. Alhamdulillah. Very excited.